In the snow-laden peaks of the Himalayas, there was a small and isolated village called Saring. The villagers were hardy people, braving the cold and treacherous terrain that they called home. Among them lived an elderly man named Dorj, who had a seemingly endless supply of tales and legends from their forefathers. Of all the stories Dorj told, the one that captivated the villagers the most was the legend of the Abominable Snowman, the elusive Yeti. The elders would gather around the fire, listening attentively as Dorj spoke in a hushed, reverent tone. In ancient times, before the age of man, the Himalayas were ruled by a race of powerful beings, he began. These beings were skilled in the arts of magic and warfare, and they protected the sacred mountains from any who dared to trespass. One day, however, a great and powerful sorcerer named Khangbars arrived in the mountains. He sought to conquer the region and claim its riches for himself. The magical beings fought valiantly, but Khangbars' dark powers were too strong. One by one, they fell to his might. In a desperate bid to protect their home, the remaining beings cast a powerful spell. They transformed themselves into the Abominable Snowman, a giant, hairy creature with incredible strength and an insatiable hunger for human flesh. The spell was designed to make Khangbars fear the beast and flee the mountains, but Khangbars was not so easily deterred. Instead, he used his dark magic to bind the Yeti to his will, forcing it to serve as his guardian and enforcer. Khangbars now ruled the mountains, and his reign of terror lasted for centuries. But Khangbars' power waned over time, and he was eventually defeated by a brave hero who ascended the treacherous peaks to confront him. As Khangbars' life force ebbed away, so too did the magic binding the Yeti to his command. Since that day, the Yeti has roamed the mountains, seeking to reclaim its lost power and fulfill its original purpose, to protect the sacred Himalayas. Some say it is a force for good, driving out those who would desecrate the mountains. Others believe it is an evil creature, still bound to the darkness that Khangbars once wielded. Dorj would then look around the fire, his eyes sparkling with excitement. The Yeti still walks among us, my friends, and if we do not respect the power of the mountains, it will surely come for us. As the years went by, the legend of the Yeti was passed down through the generations. Young people would often venture into the mountains, hoping to catch a glimpse of the elusive creature. Among them was a young woman named Pema, Dorj's granddaughter. Pema was adventurous and headstrong, and she yearned to discover the truth behind the legend. One fateful day, Pema decided to set out on a solo expedition into the mountains. She climbed higher and higher, traversing the treacherous terrain with determination and courage. As she ascended, the air grew colder and the snow deeper, but Pema pressed on, driven by her desire to uncover the secrets of the Yeti. After days of climbing, Pema came across a remote cave hidden behind a waterfall. As she entered the dark cavern, her heart raced with excitement, sensing that she was on the verge of a great discovery. Inside, she found a series of ancient paintings depicting the Yeti and the magical beings that had transformed themselves into the beast. She knew she was close. As Pema studied the paintings, she heard a low growl behind her. She turned slowly, her heart pounding in her chest, and saw a pair of glowing eyes staring at her from the darkness. The creature stepped forward, revealing its massive form covered in thick, shaggy fur. It was the legendary Yeti, and it towered over her, its breath like ice on her face. Pema's fear threatened to overwhelm her, but she summoned her courage and spoke to the beast. "Great Yeti," she began, her voice shaking, "I have come to learn the truth about you and the legend that surrounds you. I do not wish to harm you or the sacred mountains you protect." The Yeti studied her for a moment, its eyes narrowing. Then, to her surprise, it spoke. Its voice was deep and resonant, echoing through the cave. "You seek the truth, young one. It is a noble pursuit, but the truth can be a burden as well as a blessing." Pema listened intently, her fear slowly giving way to awe. The Yeti told her of its long, lonely existence, wandering the mountains as both guardian and outcast. It spoke of the ancient beings who had created it and the darkness that still threatened to consume it. "The spell that created me was born of desperation, and it left a mark on my soul," the Yeti explained. "Though I strive to protect these mountains and drive out those who would desecrate them, I am still tormented by the darkness of my past. Khangbars' magic has left its stain on me, and it is a burden I must bear." Moved by the Yeti's story, Pema vowed to help the creature find redemption and free it from the darkness that plagued it. They journeyed together, seeking out the remnants of the magical beings that had created the Yeti. One by one, they found them, and with each encounter, Pema learned more about the ancient magic that bound the creature. Finally, they discovered the last of the magical beings, an old and wise sage who had long since given up hope of ever freeing the Yeti from its curse. The sage revealed that the spell could only be broken by a pure-hearted individual who was willing to sacrifice their own life force to cleanse the darkness from the Yeti's soul. Pema knew what she had to do. With a heavy heart, she bade farewell to the Yeti and prepared to give her life to save the creature she had come to know and understand. The Yeti protested, unwilling to let her sacrifice herself, but Pema was resolute. As the magic began to flow from her body, Pema felt her strength fading. The darkness that had clung to the Yeti for so long began to dissipate, replaced by a brilliant golden light. The creature's form shifted, its monstrous features softening, and Pema knew that the spell was finally breaking. In the end, Pema's sacrifice was not in vain. The Yeti was freed from the darkness that had haunted it for centuries, and it once again took up its role as the guardian of the sacred Himalayas. It was a bittersweet victory, as Pema's life had been given to restore balance and harmony to the mountains. The legend of the Abominable Snowman, the Yeti of the Himalayas, would live on in the hearts and minds of the people of Sering. They would remember Pema's bravery and her selfless act of love, and they would honor the memory of the magical beings who had created the Yeti to protect their sacred land. And in the cold, wind-swept peaks of the Himalayas, the Yeti would forever watch over the mountains, a guardian and a symbol of the people of Sering.